I turned to run back up the stairs. As I reached the hallway again, the door slammed behind me. And Elias was standing there. His jaw was tight. His eyes darker than usual. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said. He didn't yell. That's the first thing I noticed. He just stood there between me and the hallway, eyes locked on mine like I was some kind of puzzle he didn't know how to solve. "You weren't supposed to see that," Elias said again, voice low and even. "Then maybe don't hide a person in your basement," I snapped. His jaw flexed. "It's not that simple." She said she saw something. Something that got her locked down there. What did she see? Enough. That's not an answer. He walked past me, opened the door, and looked down the staircase I'd just come up from. I saw his shoulders shift, tense, like he hated even being near it. Then he closed the door again. Quietly. Carefully. Like that room didn't just hold a girl, but something else. Something vivier. I was 16, he said, turning back toward me. My father had just died. The council voted me in as the next Alpha, but I wasn't ready. Half the pack didn't think I'd survive a month. His voice was different now. Not soft, but stripped down. Honest. "I made a mistake," he said. "A big one." I stayed quiet. She was part of it. Her family tried to overthrow mine right after my father's funeral. They used her as bait. A teenage girl barely trained, sent to earn my trust and then kill me. My stomach turned. But she didn't do it? She couldn't, he said. She got close, closer than anyone else ever did. And she hesitated. The night she was supposed to do it, she told me everything instead. Every plan. Every detail. And then she begged for her life. I looked back at the door behind me, chilled. "So, you locked her up?" "I spared her life," he said. "The council wanted her dead. The pack wanted blood. But I couldn't kill her. She saved me. So I gave her a cell instead of a grave." That was 10 years ago. I know. 10 years locked away? Elias nodded, his jaw tight again. "And now you know why I didn't want you to see her. Because you'd look at me like you are now." I didn't even realize I was backing away until my hand hit the hallway wall. "I didn't come here to play judge," I whispered. "But you really think this makes you look better?" "I think it makes me human." That stopped me. He stepped forward. "You want to know who you're pretending to be mated to?" he said. "This is it, Eliana. This is who I am. I lead with scars. I make choices no one else wants to make. And yeah, I bury the ones who get too close." I looked at him for a long time. My chest was tight, my thoughts scattered. "Is that a warning?" I asked. "No," he said quietly. "It's the truth." Then he walked past me and disappeared down the hall. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I didn't know who the hell I was protecting myself from, his enemies. Or him. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I stared at the ceiling of that ridiculously soft bed in my ridiculously expensive guest suite and waited for my eyes to close. But they didn't. Because every time I blinked, I saw her face. The girl in the basement. Her sharp stare. Her hollow voice. The way she said, "You have no idea what you're walking into." And the way Elias looked when he told me she tried to kill him. I needed answers. So just before sunrise, I slipped out of bed, grabbed a hoodie and my phone, and tiptoed my way back through the mansion. I already memorized the path. Down the east wing, past the old wine cellar, behind the linen storage room with the broken light. The same wooden door was still there. Still plain. Still quiet. I opened it. The stairs groaned under my feet, but this time, I wasn't scared. I was angry. And curious. And maybe, just a little reckless. She was awake when I got there. She stood as I approached, stepping into the light like she'd been waiting for me all night. "You came back," she said. Not surprised. Almost satisfied. "Yeah," I said. "And I want the truth." She looked at me for a long time before she moved. She grabbed the chair from the far corner of the cell and dragged it forward until she sat right at the edge of the bars. "You want to know who I am," she said. "My name is Violetorn. And I'm the reason Elias learned how to lie." My briscoed in my chest. You loved him, I guessed. She smirked.
Smart girl.
You tried to kill him. No, she said. That's what he told you. But I didn't try. I was sent to gather intel. My family? They were tired of the Vallon bloodline ruling over everything. They thought Elias was weak. I was their test. And yeah, I got close. Too close. But I never raised a weapon against him. Then why? He needed a reason, she cut in. To keep me. To hide what we were. What were you? Violet leaned in. Her voice dropped, like the truth would get her punished. His first mate.
Everything inside me froze.
That's not possible, I whispered.
Wolves only get one.
We do, she said. And I was his. But something happened. Something changed him. I still don't understand it, but one day he woke up and looked at me like I was a threat. Not a mate. No, I said, backing away.
Et told me, et marqued me.
That bond. He faked it, Violet said. The bond can be mimicked for a short time. Especially if both wolves are powerful.
The real mark? The soul deep connection? You'd feel it in your bones, girl. You wouldn't be confused.
You'd know.
He shook my head. You're lying.
She just stared at me. Calm. Still.
Like a flame burning low busted.
Ask him what happened in Silverwood. Ask him what the elders forced him to do. Ask him why the mark on your neck still hasn't fully settled. I touched my throat instinctively. It's not real, she said. And if you stay too long, neither will you be. That's when I heard the footsteps again. But this time, they weren't coming alone. I found him in the west courtyard. It was just past 7. The sun was barely over the trees, and the stone path was slick with dew. Elias stood shirtless at the far end of the training ring, fists wrapped, body coiled like he hadn't slept at all. His strikes were sharp. Clean. Too clean. Like he was fighting something in his own head. I didn't wait. What happened in Silverwood? I said. He froze mid-punch. Slowly, he turned toward me. Where did you hear that name? Violet, I said. She told me. His jaw tightened. Not in surprise, but like he'd been expecting this moment to come. And you believed her? He asked. She knew things you didn't tell me. She thinks she knows things, he muttered. She said she was your mate. His eyes snapped to mine. She said the bond was real. That the mark you gave me, it's not. That it's a lie. Silence. Just wind and birds, and the sound of my heart crashing against my ribs. Elias looked away, turning his back to me. He ran a hand through his hair, then dropped it, like he didn't even know how to hold the weight of the question. Tell me the truth, I said. He didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, quietly, he did. I was 18 when I went to Silverwood. It was supposed to be a ceremony. Every new alpha has to go, meet the elders, seal their authority under ancient law. It's tradition. But when I got there, something else happened. He walked toward a bench near the wall and sat down, elbows on his knees. They said the bloodline was weakening. That the alpha power was thinning out over generations. So they did something. A ritual. He looked up at me. His eyes weren't cold anymore. They were tired. They severed the bond. I blinked. What? They used old magic. Ancient. Dangerous. They stripped me of my fated mate bond, cut it off like it was a disease. And then they rebuilt me. Gave me back my alpha strength. But with a cost. You couldn't feel her anymore. He nodded. Violet and I, we were close. But after Silverwood, the connection was gone. And the elders said that was the price of becoming a new kind of alpha. One not ruled by emotion. One who could lead without weakness. I sat down across from him, heart sinking. So what you have with me? It's real, he said. But not in the old way. Not by fate. I chose you, Eliana. Not because the moon told me to. But because I saw you and wanted you. That's not the same. No, he admitted. It's not. But I swear to you, I've never lied about what I feel. Not once. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know how I felt. Because fate wasn't supposed to be something you could break. And yet, here he was. Broken. And still trying. By the time the sun was high in the sky, the entire manor felt different. Tense. Silent. Like the air was holding its breath. I didn't see Violet again. Not that day. Not after the truth unraveled like that. And I didn't go back to my room, either. I stayed near Elias. I followed him through quiet holes and shadowed courtyards while his beta whispered warnings and messages in his ear. Things about the elders. About how the news had traveled fast. And I didn't understand what that meant, until the cars showed up. 3 of them. Black. Identical. With symbols on their front plates I didn't recognize. "They're here," Elias said, his voice low. I looked at him. "The elders." He gave a tight nod. "Not all. Just one. But that's enough." "Why?" He glanced down at me. "Because you're not just a fake fiancé anymore. You're a threat to everything they control." I didn't have time to ask before the front doors opened. A man walked in. Older. Tall. Wrapped in a heavy dark coat, even though the heat outside was sweltering. He had silver hair, a trimmed beard, and eyes like smoke, gray, unreadable and cold. "Elion Valenblood," he said. "You've made quite the mess." Elias stepped forward. "Elder Kale. You're not expected until the solstice." "Well," Kale said, eyes landing on me, "then consider this a surprise inspection." His gaze didn't move. He stared at me for a full 5 seconds. Then he smiled. And it made my stomach turn. "So this is the girl," he asked. "The one who got a mark without the moon's blessing?" Elias stepped between us. "She's under my protection." "Oh, I don't doubt that," Kale said, his tone light. But his eyes didn't match it. "Still, there are laws, Elion. And even alphas must obey them. She's not part of any threat." Kale's smile widened. "Then she won't mind a little test." Elias stiffened. "What kind of test?" Kale didn't answer him. He looked at me again. "This girl," he said, "claims to be yours. But without a bond written in the stars, how can we be sure she hasn't manipulated you?" I stepped forward. "That's not what happened." "No?" Kale said. "Then let's find out." He raised one hand, and 2 others stepped out from behind him. Witches. That much I could tell immediately. They carried something between them. A long wooden box, sealed with iron chains and ancient carvings. "The trial of truth," Kale said softly. "Old magic. It doesn't lie." Elias growled. "She doesn't need to be put through this." But Kale didn't back down. "If the mark is real, she'll pass. If not, well, let's hope your choice was worth the price." I looked up at Elias. My throat dry. My palms damp. "Do it," I said. "Eliana. I want to know too." He stared at me for a moment, eyes full of fire and fear. Then he nodded. The witches began to unchain the box. And I stepped forward, into something far older, and far darker, than I'd ever imagined. They laid the box on the stone floor. The air in the great hole shifted, thicker, heavier, like it knew what was coming. Elias stood beside me, shoulders rigid, every part of him ready to tear someone apart if this went wrong. The witches said nothing. Just opened the lid. Inside was a shallow bowl made of obsidian. It pulsed faintly, like something was breathing inside it. Around it were 3 small knives. Each one etched with symbols that shimmered in the light. "What do I have to do?" I asked. One of the witches stepped forward. She looked young, but the kind of young that wasn't real. Her eyes were centuries old. "You cut your hand. Drip your blood into the bowl," she said softly. "Then speak his full name." "That's it." She tilted her head. "If the mark is true, the blood will glow silver. If it's false, it turns black. The bowl doesn't lie." I glanced up at Elias. "Your call," he whispered. I took a breath. Then picked up the knife. It didn't hurt as much as I thought. A shallow slice across my palm. Warm blood welled up instantly, sliding down my fingers. I held my hand over the bowl. "Elion Valenblood," I said, clear and loud. The blood hit the obsidian. 1 drop. 2. 3. It swirled. And then, it glowed. But not silver. Not black either. It burned red. The kind of red that shimmered like fire. The witches stepped back instantly. Kale's expression shifted for the first time. From smugness to confusion. What does that mean? I asked, my voice shaking. The older witch stepped forward again. Her brow furrowed. It's not a lie. But it's not the bond of the moon, either. Then what is it? Elias growled. The witch looked at him. It's blood magic. Not fate. Something older. Kale narrowed his eyes. You mocked her, he said slowly. But not with a bond. With your own blood. With your own will. Elias didn't deny it. I turned to him. What does that mean? It means, Kale said, stepping forward, that your Alpha made a new kind of bond. One not sanctioned by the elders. One the old laws never allowed. He looked between the two of us like he was seeing a threat now. A real one. You created something dangerous, he said. Elias stepped in front of me again. No. I created something. But Kale wasn't listening anymore. His attention turned to the witches. Send word to the High Circle, he said. Tell them the prophecy may have already begun. And just like that, he turned and left. I stood there, still bleeding, still shaking, as the witches sealed the box. I had no idea what prophecy he meant. But I knew one thing for sure. Whatever Elias and I had, whatever this red flame was, we were no longer just pretending. We were in it. For real. And the wolves of the old world were watching.
The moment the doors closed behind Elder Cael, he felt the tremor ripple through the house.
Not physical, but in the air.
In the walls.
Like the entire manor understood something had changed.
The witch vanished, silent as smoke.
Elias turned to me and took my injured hand gently in his. You're still bleeding, he said, voice tight.
I'm fine, he whispered.
No, you're not. He pulled a cloth from his pocket and wrapped it around my palm. That shouldn't have happened. But it wasn't a lie, I said. The bond, it's real. He nodded, but there was something in his eyes I didn't recognize. Fear. Not fear of the elders.
Not fear of Cael.
Fear of what he had done. You made a new kind of bond, I said. Did you know that would happen? He looked at me for a long time before answering. No, he said. But I hoped. I sat down on the nearest bench, the reality settling like a weight on my chest.
You marked me with your blood.
Not just to fake a bond. You meant it. Yes. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell me? Because if you walked away, I didn't want you to carry that mark without knowing what it meant. I looked down at my hand, at the wrap now darkening with blood. What does it mean, Elias? He sat beside me, leaning forward, his elbows on his knees. It means you're mine, he said quietly. Not because the moon says so. Not because of some prophecy.
But because he chose it. Because he chose you.
I didn't know what to say to that. So I sat there in silence, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. But the quiet didn't last long. There were footsteps.
Fast. Urgent.
Violet's voice rang down the corridor before I saw her. Eliana. She stopped when she reached us. Her cheeks were flushed. Her hands trembling. They know, she said. The whole inner court. Every alpha. Every heir. They know what happened. Elias stood. How? Cael wanted them to, Violet said. He lit the beacon at the hill. The red one. Elias cursed under his breath. What does the red beacon mean? I asked. Violet looked at me, her expression pale. It means war. The word hit me like a cold wind. Va? I thought this was about a lie. A fake bond. A power play. But it wasn't. Not anymore. Elias didn't just mark me to protect me. He marked me to defy them. And now the entire werewolf hierarchy was coming for us. By nightfall, the entire pack was restless. The red beacon on the eastern hill burned like an open wound against the sky. It wasn't just a signal, it was a declaration. The kind that reached far beyond our borders. It was the call of the old ways. Of blood justice. Of alpha retribution. Elias stood on the balcony outside the main hall, watching it with his arms crossed over his chest. I came up behind him quietly, but he already knew I was there. They'll come in less than a week, he said. The council. The alphas. Maybe even the high circle. To do what? His jaw tensed. To test the bond. To question your blood. To try and break what we made. I stepped beside him, folding my arms. Can they? No, he said. But they'll try anyway. Because if they accept what we've done, they'll have to change everything they've built. The fire flickered in the distance. It wasn't just smoke. It was history burning. They'll come for me too, won't they? I asked. Elias didn't answer at first. Then he turned toward me, his voice lower, calmer, but still hard.
You're the threat now, Eliana.
Not just the poor girl in my guest room.
You carry a mark older than the moon.
That scared me more than I wanted to admit. I looked down at my hand, the one he'd bandaged.
The one still warm from the way he touched it.
And what happens when they decide I'm not worth the risk?
Elias stepped closer.
Then they'll have to kill me first. His voice didn't shake when he said it. Not even a little. And that was the part that scared me most. Not the words, but how much he meant them. We stood there, staring into the distance, until Violet called us inside. There's a visitor, she said quietly. He's from the borderlands. Says he's come to offer support.
Elias arched a brow.
Support. He said the name Valenblood still means something where he comes from. Elias glanced at me, then followed her inside. I stayed behind for a moment, staring at the beacon. Maybe I wasn't just pretending anymore. Maybe none of this was pretend. Because something deep inside me, something I hadn't named yet, was starting to rise. It wasn't fear. It was fire. And maybe it had always been there, just waiting for the right kind of lie to set it free. The man waiting in the hall didn't look like a diplomat. He wore a long ash-gray coat with the sleeves rolled up, his boots still caked in dry mud from the northern wilds. His hair was shoulder-length and dark, tied back loosely with a leather cord. And he had scars, 3 of them, claw marks that ran down the side of his neck and disappeared beneath his collar. But it was his eyes that caught me.
Silver. Sharp.
Watchful. Like he could see right through the lie Elias and I had built and was still deciding if it amused him or disgusted him. Elias greeted him without hesitation. Darian, he said, offering a hand. The man took it with a short nod. Didn't think you'd ever use the old signal again. I didn't, Elias said. The beacon was Kale's doing. Darian smirked. Then he's as much a fool as he always was. Elias turned slightly.
This is Eliana.
Darian looked me over. Not in a rude way, just, like he was reading a file he already mostly understood. You're the human, he said. I'm, a lot of things, I answered. He chuckled under his breath. You'll need to be. He didn't offer a handshake. Just motioned to the long table behind him. We need to talk. The old packs are moving. Word is, Kale's going to push for a full high circle judgment. If he wins the council over, he won't stop at breaking your bond. He'll burn everything down that carries your name. Elias nodded. Then we won't let him win. Darian looked at both of us and sat down. You say that like it's easy. But you've got a human mate with no recognized bloodline, a forged bond, and a target on your back. Not forged, Elias said coldly. Right.
Because you bled her.
Darian looked at me. Did you know what that would do? I didn't, I said honestly. But I'm starting to understand. He stared at me a second longer, then nodded like that answer was good enough. Well, he said, leaning back, I'm not here to judge. I'm here because my territory owes the Valenbloods a debt. And because I'm tired of Kale pretending he's the future. I looked at Elias. Can he really help? He's a wild card, Elias said. But if he's in, we have a shot.
A shot at what?
I didn't ask. Because I was already beginning to realize, this wasn't just about us anymore. It was about who got to write the laws. Who got to claim the throne. And who would be standing when the smoke finally cleared. Darian didn't sleep that night. Neither did Elias. They spent hours in the old study with maps spread out across the long table, whispering names I didn't recognize. Names of people who had once pledged loyalty to the Valenbloods, before the packs fractured, before Elias's father died, before Cale took control of the council by force and fear. I listened from the hallway for a while, trying to piece things together. But eventually I drifted back to my room and sat on the bed, still fully dressed, staring at the door like something might come through it. It felt like everything had shifted. Before, it was just a fake engagement. A cover story to protect his title. Now it was war. Around dawn, I made my way back downstairs and found Violet in the kitchen, her sleeves rolled up, kneading dough like she was working out every single one of her anxieties into the flour. "Do you think we're safe?" I asked. She didn't look up. "I think safety's a lie people tell themselves before things get bad." "That's not comforting." "I'm not here to comfort you, Eliana," she said, finally looking at me. "I'm here to keep you alive. There's a difference." I sat at the table and watched her for a moment. "I don't get it," I said. "Why are people so loyal to Elias? He seems, I don't know, cold." Violet wiped her hands on a towel and stared at me. He was the first alpha to refuse the blood trials. The first to offer safe haven to bitten wolves. He ended forced pairings in his territory. The other alphas said it would ruin him. Instead, it made this place stronger. She leaned on the counter and folded her arms. "Don't mistake his silence for coldness. He's not heartless. He's just exhausted from carrying too much for too long." That sat with me longer than I expected. I didn't see Elias again until midday. He was outside with Darian, overseeing the arrival of a few wolves from the outer borders. They looked rough, lean, worn down, armed to the teeth. But when they saw Elias, they bowed their heads. One of them even knelt. "He's not just a title to them," I whispered. Darian walked up beside me and nodded. "He's a symbol of the old ways done right. And now, you're part of that symbol too." I frowned. "They don't even know me." "They don't need to," he said. "They see what you're trying to protect. That's enough." I didn't feel like a symbol.
I felt like a girl standing at the edge of a story too big for her.
But I also knew I wasn't stepping away from it. Because this wasn't just Elias's fight anymore. It was mine too. The letter came sealed in wax, so dark it looked black. It was delivered by a messenger wearing the silver cloak of the High Circle, and he didn't step a single foot past the edge of the stone boundary surrounding the estate. Elias took it from him in silence. I watched from the top of the stairs as he broke the seal and read it once, then twice. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Just handed it to Darian. Darian read it and cursed under his breath. "They're not wasting time." I walked down slowly, my heart already picking up.
What is it?
Elias's jaw was clenched. "They've summoned us." "Summoned us for what?" He turned to face me. His eyes were dark, unreadable. "For a trial of truth." I'd heard the term before. Somewhere in the mess of things Violet had told me during one of our midnight talks. It was the council's version of a hearing, but one held in the old ways, where the accused had to prove their innocence or suffer the consequences in front of the entire circle and its witnesses. And in a werewolf world, consequences usually meant blood. "Can we ignore it?" I asked quietly. "No," Elias said. "Ignoring a summons is an automatic admission of guilt. They'd strip me of my title."
Idée be exiled, or worse.
"And me. They'd mark you as a traitor to the blood order. Human or not, they'll make an example of you." I swallowed hard. Darian folded the letter again. "They want to force a break. If you show up without a real bond, they'll tear it apart in public." "Unless we give them a reason not to," Elias said, looking straight at me.
Darian arched a brow.
"You're not thinking what I think you're thinking." Elias didn't answer. And I didn't ask. Because I already knew. He was going to bind us, for real.
No more fake engagement.
No more playing house. He was going to make me his mate. That night, I couldn't sleep. The room felt too quiet. My skin too hot. My thoughts too loud. So I left. I stepped barefoot down the hallway, past the guest rooms and storage closets and into the old hole that led to the inner garden. The moon was high and sharp above the courtyard, and I stood there for a minute, letting the cool air calm me down. Then I heard his footsteps behind me. Elias. He didn't say anything at first. Just walked up beside me and looked up at the sky. They won't stop until they break something, he said quietly. Then let them try, I said. He glanced down at me. You don't even know what you're agreeing to. I know enough. Do you? He asked. If I bind us for real, Eliana, it won't be a story anymore. It won't be fake. It won't be safe. You'll carry the mark of my blood forever. You'll age slower. You'll be hunted if I fall. You'll be changed by this. I stared at him. I already am. The room they prepared for the binding ceremony wasn't grand or golden or covered in ancient carvings. It was just an old ritual chamber tucked beneath the east wing, stone walls, a circle etched into the floor with old symbols I couldn't read, and candles that burned with an eerie blue flame. I stood in the center, barefoot, wearing a simple white shift Violet had pressed for me.
No jewelry. No makeup.
Just skin and breath and the weight of a choice I hadn't made lightly. Elias stepped into the circle a moment later. His shirt was off, exposing the mark on his chest, the same sigil carved into the floor. He didn't look afraid. But he didn't look relaxed, either. This wasn't romance. It was survival. Darian stood off to the side with a scroll in hand. Violet was behind me, arms folded, her mouth pressed into a hard line. She didn't speak. None of them did. Until Darian began reading. By the law of the first blood and the vow of the second bond, we gather to witness the binding of Alpha Elias Valenblood and Eliana Grace Rowan.
No compulsion. No falsehood. No shadow.
He looked to Elias. Do you give this bond freely? Elias's voice was steady. I do. Darian looked to me. Eliana, do you enter this bond freely, knowing its weight and permanence? I took a breath. I do. He handed us a blade. It was small, silver-hilted, with runes carved along the edge. We each took it in turn. A small cut across the palm. A drop of blood to the stone. My pulse roared in my ears as the circle lit up, humming with ancient energy that made the air feel thick and electric. Elias took my hand in his. Our blood mingled between us. The light rose in a slow swirl around our joined hands, then sank into the stone. A mark appeared on my wrist, faint, glowing, then fading to a pale scar. The bond was sealed. No more pretending. No more lines between fake and real. I was his now. And he was mine. When it was done, no one clapped. No one cheered. Darian rolled up the scroll. Violet walked out without a word. And Elias, he didn't let go of my hand. Thank you, he said. I didn't answer. Because I was afraid if I spoke, I'd break. Not from fear. But from the terrifying realization that somewhere along the way, I'd started to want this. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't. Because I didn't want to. After the binding, Elias didn't leave my side. He didn't return to his room, didn't pace the halls like he usually did when his mind was at war with itself. He stayed in my doorway for a few seconds longer than I expected, then stepped in, closed the door, and sat in the chair by the window. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't awkward. It just was. I stayed on the bed cross-legged, still wearing the white shift from the ceremony, the faint sting of the cut on my hand reminding me it wasn't a dream. My wrist still held the mark.